the opening of the Danville Redevelopment Commission regularly August meeting. Please join me for a Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please let the record reflect we have a full board. So we have a quorum for business tonight. We have one set of minutes from the June meeting that we need to act on tonight. If anyone has read these, may I have a motion to edit or approve?
I make a motion, we approve.
Motion and second to approve the June minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And Mr. Aiken for signature, please. We're going to move one of the items of the agenda around a little bit. We have some very special guests with us tonight from Public Works. And to be respectful of their time, I'd like to go ahead and bring them up before the commission. Guys, please. We've been seeing and hearing about all of the wonderful things you guys have been doing. I know Linda Monk has a few words she would like to say.
On our empty property, you guys worked so hard and made it look so nice, and then I know there have been problems with it since, but just cannot thank you enough for that hard work. And then the wonderful, wonderful sidewalk that we have and people use it, and it's great. Sorry that it got run over and already, but that's okay. The other really exciting thing, I think, that happened today is I was approached by one of the artists and talking about possibly painting on the wall to make that attractive, and maybe it'll stand out a little bit more. So that's another exciting thing happening in that area. Just can't thank you guys enough. You're always there, and you always answer all my questions. Andy, every time I send you an email. Oh, and then there's the whole handicap parking situation with the library itself, but really appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do it without you. Thank you for being a good partner with us and appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on the agenda to new business, let us talk about the 2022 budget request. Ms. Piercy.
So we are preparing 2020. The town of Danville is in the works of preparing the 2022 budget. And I spoke with Ben last week asking what type of contribution you would like from the town of Danville. The last 2 years, we've contributed $100,000 from the edit fund to the Redevelopment Commission while you guys build the TIF revenue that we're receiving. We did receive our first check the end of June, and I sent that statement to you guys. I think Lisa put it in the packet. So I just come before you this evening to see what you guys are looking for the 22 budget. Ben and I spoke, and he thought he would be comfortable with $100,000, like we've done in the last 2 years. You guys haven't spent anywhere near that, but we budget high so that just in case something comes up that you do need those funds, they're available.
Jenny, was it 100 or 200?
It was 100. We
Okay.
budget 200,000 altogether to allow for other engineering and type of things out of professional services. So if you do need more than 100,000, it goes up to 200,000. So I think I did tell you that we would allow up to 200,000 because there's leniency, because that's a reimbursable engineering fees from the engineers. It's a pass-through, is what I should say, for when the businesses come in, and Lisa pays those, and then she turns around and bills the developer.
Do we have a rough idea of how much we spent in the last, say, 12 months?
I can get that for you in just a minute. I thought, did I?
There wasn't anything. There was one thing that Mark went back and found.
It's like $2,400.
Okay.
You spent it on
Legal fees or
It
whatever?
was the SME, the
Yeah,
sampling stuff.
yeah. Are you going to be with us for the whole meeting?
Yes.
We're going to talk about some things that may have an impact on our answer as far as what the proposed budget would be.
Well, and
Ms. Ra-
something, I'm
got
sorry,
you. Ms.
something else that you can look at doing is, because you haven't spent those funds, they're still there. If you anticipate any projects the first quarter of 2022, we can encumber, and with the anticipation of those being paid out
Yeah.
then. So
Okay.
we have a lot of leniency.
Mr. Aiken?
Didn't the first year, we kicked the RDC back up, original budget amount was 50,000?
Yes, you're correct.
And so then the second year, we went another 50?
Yes, you're
And
correct.
then the third year, we went to
You got it.
trying to, my mind was still working.
Yes, and you guys have never spent anywhere close to that. I'm happy tomorrow to send a detailed report of the last 3 years' activity, just so you guys have it.
Most of the projects that we have are not extravagant, but they cost a lot.
Right,
And so it takes time to recoup some of that money.
right. And I think that the first, this is off the top of my head, and boy, I've seen a lot of numbers this week, but Lisa, was it $86,000 we received in June for those 3 areas?
Sounds right.
And Jenny, just for, so the board, is clear, an encumbrance of funds for this year to be spent next year does need to be done by, or that the encumbrance would need to be spent by March 31st.
Correct, yes, first quarter. And I will need, if you guys do anticipate doing anything like that, by December 20th, because the council has to approve the resolution to encumber funds.
Has to be dedicated towards a certain project or?
Yes, correct, exactly. I'm happy to answer any other questions or get you any reports you need tomorrow.
I don't know that we need a report unless someone else on the board does, but thank you so much. I mean, we some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, we're actually in a position to possibly start spending money soon. And we've been, everything we've done, it feels like has been a build-up to this moment in time to get ourselves in a position to make some things happen. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And if you can hang with us, that would be great.
Absolutely. I do have one request. Wednesday night is a work study that we're having to present a portion of the budget to the council. I would ask if one of you could be there at 5:30 just to formally make the request to the council. It should only take about 10 minutes, and I'm on the agenda. You guys are scheduled for 5:30.
What time?
5:30.
At what, I'm sorry, what date?
Wednesday, is that the 24th? 18th, August 18th at 5:30. If just one of you could come and,
I'd be happy to, if that works for the commission, I'd be happy to go. All right.
thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. So, as mentioned, as you all know, we set up 2 TIF districts. And 4 total properties were within those districts. And they have started generating money. At full build-out, it's going to generate approximately $200,000 a year, if my memory serves me correctly, at full build-out. It's not at full build-out yet. It's nearing the halfway point, and the county has sent us $86,000 from our TIF establishment to be spent in our economic development area. So that's exciting to me that some of our planning and efforts is coming to fruition.
And what year did that TIF district get established?
Last year, I believe.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
Okay,
So this year would have been the first year to start collecting.
okay, all right. Very good,
And I
excellent.
would say, by this time next year, it may hit full.
It will. That's what I wanted to step back up here and share that. It's, of course, part of property taxes, so we receive the distribution from the county the end of June and the end of December. So it's twice a year, and you're exactly right, Ben. This time next year, we'll be right on track.
So when you say twice a year, will we have another 86 coming in
Yes,
this year
in
yet?
December, somewhere right around that. Yes. the end of December. That usually comes like December 28th.
Well, that's definitely a factor. Thank you for that. That's definitely a factor for consideration as we talk about a few things under our items for discussion.
And as another item, I will need to budget that. So I don't know if you guys want me to budget the full amount of the revenue that we anticipate starting for January. I recommend we do that. You never have to spend it, but if you would like to, it's there. If you don't want to spend it and you want to budget $100,000, and Greg's very familiar with this, and if something comes up, we just do an additional appropriation to spend the extra amount, and Gary's familiar with that.
Why wouldn't we budget at all? Why wouldn't we budget at all?
Sometimes financial advisors will recommend that you build your cash reserve for a couple years, just to show in case the town, you guys cannot bond, of course, and Ben, you and I worked through that the last couple months, or borrow. But you can, it still shows a cash reserve being built, and Gary's very familiar with that as well, so.
Okay. All right. Good. So, any questions about the budget request or TIF report? We'll circle back to the budget request by the time this meeting's over. Commission consensus, what we think that should be. But we do need to have some discussion about some projects in order to try to formulate an educated opinion on that number. So, that being said, any questions or comments before we jump into items for discussion?
Linda?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but could you please get closer? I have a terrible time
Sorry.
hearing, so I can do minutes.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So do we have a potential for having more than 200,000 or?
By the end of the year, we have money coming in from a few different sources. And so our TIF revenue by the end of this year should be at roughly 172,000
Right.
TIF money. And that's separate from the town's edit budget fund.
Right, right. But if we're saying that it's half built out, does that mean?
Oh, I guess you could say it's almost all the way built out. Yeah.
That's my
I didn't-
question.
It would be. And
Okay.
I didn't realize we were getting another 86 by the end of this year, so we're nearing full build out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't go more than 200,000.
The initial projections were not more than 200, but it could. But it could. It's based on value of improvements. It's based on how much the value is.
Okay,
Yeah, it's exactly like your home. So it's based on the value, is exactly what Ben's saying. So it could, but when we anticipated and worked with Ice Miller and Baker Tilly, Ben's right, they anticipated around 200,000 annually.
okay. All right.
This
looks good.
Just a question, in that estimate, do we know what the anticipated growth of AV was for the estimate?
Can you remember that, Mark? The anticipated assessed value of that estimate?
What they use for a growth quotient on the AV estimate?
4.1 is the 2022 growth quotient. We just received that this week, so
I'm wondering what they modeled, though.
I can call Nancy Marsh in the morning. Yeah. I'll call Nancy and Nikki Lawson in the morning and get an email chain going.
Okay.
And I'll include you and
Thank
Ben
you.
on that.
Is that about as high as it's been for a while, Mark?
It's the highest it's been in 10 years.
Yeah, because it's been stuck around 2 or so.
Exactly. 4.1.
Okay. So, a lot of our discussion is going to be related to the East Main Street corridor, kind of in the 1 to 2 to 300 block east of the courthouse. Essentially the Dairy Queen block, what's across from the Dairy Queen block, kind of that area of town. And we've been talking about the Dairy Queen block from the very beginning. And now that we have some funds built up, we have an opportunity to actually do something. Jerry Vornholt, who keeps a finger on the pulse of the commercial opportunities in the town of Danville, is here with us tonight, and some discussion and ideas and thoughts from him may generate some great discussion. So Jerry, the floor is yours, and as in an informal matter, thank you for joining us to talk commercial opportunities.
So you answered some of the questions that I had. I didn't know where you were on monies, where you were on projects, if you're looking at anything in particular. Didn't know where your direction was. So when we first started the RDC in that block, yeah, perfect. That's perfect. That's the first one. So when Laura Parker was here, she and the town created the Corridor Overlay Protection District. And part of that was on the main street, certainly around town, is to any new redevelopment to bring the street walls up to the street. So the Beehive is an example of that. Dwayne Lane's an example of that. So in yellow, I kind of was looking at this. In yellow, we kind of have those street walls. In red, we don't. So gap tooth or whatever words you want to use for that. And then the Dairy Queen block, you know, as you see there by the Beehive, and then on the other side of that Dairy Queen block, I put the Speedway gas station in there. It had gone through the CPOD, and that is how it ended up. So that's probably not going to change and be a small town look anytime soon. So I did include that in there as being part of the street wall thing. But I've been involved with, Linda, we've not met.
No.
I've been in real estate 30 years. I live in Danville and own some properties in Danville. And I've been involved with land acquisition. A lot of my brokerage is putting together land for development. So a couple of years ago, I was part of a project. I don't know what the next slide is. There, perfect. Okay. So go up to the next part of that half. Yeah. 2 or 3 years ago, Plainfield went through a strategic plan, and that was a plan on how they wanted their downtown to look. The CPOD, the Overlay Protection District, is similar to that. This is what we want our place to look like. So when Plainfield put that into place, I had a listing within that block there. There's 13 properties, and a developer, Shelby Bowen, Rebar Development, who some of you have met. He came in early on. I don't know if you were here yet, early on in the RDC, and kind of talked about how these things work. So this was a fascinating experience for me, because him and I put together 13 properties of people who weren't willing to sell. No, let me say it. They weren't selling. One property was for sale that I had. So 12 others are just people that have lived there or own businesses there. So the process of going through and assembling something like this is very difficult and very expensive. And I don't know any other way you could redevelop a part of an old town like this without spending more than market value for those properties. You just have to. That's the only way that's going to happen. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 owners, maybe, but when there's 13, you're going to be paying more than you should for real estate. So if you scroll back up to the top of that page, Lisa, now we went through that process. Then Shelby Bowen took over, negotiated with the Redevelopment Commission in the town of Plainfield, took over a year to negotiate the redevelopment of that block. So Shelby says, I've got all these pieced together. I have an idea I want to do. I want to build this project for you. It fits in your plan. This is what you want. I'm going to need help to do it, because the only way to do what you want to see here is to get your help. After a lot of work, this is now built on the corner of Avon Avenue and US 40 in Plainfield. There's 116 apartments, 3,000 square feet of commercial, 154 surface parking spaces behind. You can't see it. So that leased up really quick. So now Browning Investments
Let me
gives me a
interject a
call.
question.
Yeah.
The residential and the retail,
No,
all leased
no,
up, or
No, retail's really slow right now. Retail's
the
tough right now.
residential
Edward Jones
apartments?
is in there.
The apartments.
That's the anchor, they say.
The apartments all leased up very quickly.
Man, it
Okay.
was like that. So other developers see this and they say, like, I'm kind of rambling a little bit. Brownsburg has 2 of these kind of projects on their main street, Green Street. It's not the same look, but the same concept. Apartments leased up really quick. This came after that. Apartments leased up really quick. As a result of that, other developers started looking at Plainfield, doing an assemblage. Browning Investments called me up and says, Jerry, this is crazy how well this is going. We want to do something on another block. So I'm in the middle of doing that. It's painful for the broker to do this because there's people who hadn't thought of selling and you have to approach them, and it's not easy. So I look at the maps at Danville. Go ahead and go up. There we go. I look at these maps of Danville on a regular basis. It's what I do. I'm in real estate. I do assemblages. I look for opportunities for myself and for others that might be interested. This is a block that I know the Redevelopment Commission has been interested in, and I kind of just dismissed it because I thought there's not enough properties there to really do anything. But one time
I'm sorry, I can't, where are we?
oh, I'm sorry, so,
EQ lot.
yeah. I don't know why that,
There's a pointer.
I can't use those.
This is Derek.
Yes.
This is the parking lot behind it. This,
Those are the legal names. Those are what's on the tax records. That's why it doesn't say Dairy Queen on that left one, David. So looking at this, the Danville Redevelopment Commission has a property. The town and the library have a lot of properties in this block. So when you look at maybe assembling something that we did like in Plainfield or was down in Brownsburg, this one to me says if the town and the library have interest in being a part of a redevelopment, if the parking that would be going away can be satisfied here or somewhere else, if the library is on board, they own some parking there just to the west of Caskies. Yep, thank you. That maybe this is not such a crazy idea, but I did not want to start spending time to see Shelby or a Browning or an entity that does this would be interested. I didn't want to start talking to property owners until I came to you guys to say, are you doing something already? I don't know. Is this something we're spending time on? It's a commodity. I have a lot of, but it's something that's potentially a cool product. So that's the discussion point that I thought, and I talked to Lisa about it. I don't know what you think. Does this make sense? Is this something the RDC might consider? And then she encouraged me to come and just ask.
I'm glad you're here. This would probably be a good time for me to interject a couple of comments that will partially answer some of your questions. So the commission, I had been approached about the corner, the apartment building in the northeast corner.
Okay.
And at that time, they were wanting more than it was going to appraise for, to your point, right, that you got to overpay for. But we have statutory limits on what we can offer, right, based on appraisal. And so it kind of just died on the vine for a minute. Well, coincidentally, and the commission doesn't know this yet, I got another call last week. And they are interested in us going ahead and moving forward with
Really?
presenting them an offer based on appraised value. It's more of a, it's a telephone call type understanding. I suppose the worst case scenario is we're out an appraisal fee if we don't get it done. But, we were very interested and we were pursuing, well, hey, how can we make this happen type of thing? And so that's point number one I wanted to make for the commission's consideration. Should we, so let me table that, and we'll circle back to how we want to approach that. Coincidentally, the Pop Logan garage property, which is its own lot, which is separate from the Dairy Queen lot, I happened to talk to that owner too, within the last 2 weeks. We've been on fire. They've been contacting us, and so, yep, the old garage. And let's face it, I mean, he knows it. We all know that building needs to come down. I mean, that's like high priority, right? It needs to, one way or the other. It's kind of like the Danners building, if you ask me. It's kind of that type of situation where it's going to have to come down, one way or another. Anyway, not as far down the line with discussions with him about an actual, purchase or acquisition, but I think I think that one could also happen. So my estimate between these two, and this, this could be off, but I mean, if I had to throw a dart at a board and say, what would the corner come out at? The corner's looking at something like 250 maybe, as a round number. And I don't think Pop Logan's would be worth that much just due to the structure and, it's a mess. So let's call that one, what? 150, 175, I don't know what it would be, Jerry. So we're looking at, 400,000 plus over the next 12 to 18 months in acquisition money. And between our budget request and TIF revenue over the next 18 months, I think we can do that. It's not going to leave us with a lot left, but we'll be land rich at that point and have something to put into the pot as far as a redevelopment of that block goes.
Those numbers you just mentioned, I can tell you I've got accepted deals on a couple of small home lots in Plainfield over those numbers, not even on a highway. One of the assemblages.
Yeah.
So if those numbers turn out to be anywhere near there, it's not a bad investment. But I understand that the town would have to be appraised as well and be, I don't know how that would work between it. I just assume there's
Right.
a cost there as well.
And so at that point in time, you have mostly, other than the actual Dairy Queen building itself, that lot, and Caskey Dental, I mean, everybody else is a stakeholder that could at least get around a table and talk about it.
Yeah.
Please.
I also work at the library. And I have spoken to the dental office because when I first came on the commission, I look at this whole block together because I sit at the library and look at that whole block every day. I was tired of hearing. They want to be a part of whatever happens here. I mean, I'm not going to speak for them specifically. I just know that I've spoken to them many times, and I'm keeping them abreast of what's going on. Very excited to be here. They're very excited to see the things that have happened already, and I can just about guarantee that they would really want to be a part of this discussion.
That's amazing, all these things. I didn't know these. Part of the difficulty becomes with the Dairy Queen. My thinking would be you have to operate while you're constructing. And I don't know, the RDC has tremendous wide top of bill that can help pay for. I don't know. If you can answer those questions, if you can find an answer for the breadbasket, dental, to find a way to operate while this goes on, do the whole block, Linda, you've increased the liability of this quite a bit, in my opinion.
So operate while this goes on. What would we be asking them specifically to put up with?
Boy, I'm still up here. So I guess auction. Everything's done, all the funding is ready to go. Now you're ready to demolish. I really think we can here. I got the Barlow up. Quicker than So I think a year is going to be. Dentist offices, so specific, way they're built. There's our way plumbing is, locating that. That's good to hear. Maybe even their parking, so maybe even where the building's not occupied becomes helpful project. Any square footage you can add. So that Plainfield one was 2.58-ish. This approximately 1.5, and I left out Castle. So.
Right, they may be in parking lot areas or something that could be constructed later. Here, so let me try to direct the conversation here a little bit down the line, and so just from a nod of heads or a quick comment from the commission members, is a kind of an area project with a private-public partnership with a developer, like someone who's worked with Brownsburg, like someone who's worked with Plainfield. Is that something that the commission is open to? Mr. Aiken?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think you have your answer there.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, that, and I will say this about Rebar. The first time he came through, I really enjoyed his conversations. It was just wrong time for us,
Yes.
And we're a little farther down the line now. And so we might be able to take a more serious look at that and have those conversations and have them, they do this for a living, have him help us answer those questions
He
and work
will.
through the right, work through those things.
He
And
will,
so,
and he's
yeah.
told me before, after he met with you guys here, he said, "Is there any opportunity?" Oh, yeah, I'd love to work. So, I mean, that's all say,
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, and so,
Well, this could be fun.
so
Okay.
I think that's one of the answers. And I'm going to circle back. If there's anything else you want to add or ask us, feel free while you're standing up, or otherwise just please feel free to listen in on where we go from here. We're going to talk very specifically about acquiring properties.
The rest of this meeting,
Yes,
then I will stick around. Okay.
yes, right now.
Yeah, no, and that's all I had. So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start making calls and see if something can happen.
Very good.
I did have just a quick question. Is there a height restriction in the town of Danville? And what is that?
I believe I don't know what the commercial districts are. I'm thinking 35.
35.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 35 feet, but,
Need a little bit
You-
higher.
right. So,
If that's,
yeah.
going up is where you need.
Well, I mean, with an acre and a half, I was, again, thinking parking and thinking that, you probably needed something additional. So,
Most of the height requirements back then, dealing with fire protection, but now the buildings are figured with.
Sprinkle
Fire
systems and, yeah.
Is that height requirement just limited by town ordinance? Is that the limit?
By
It's in the zoning
the
ordinance.
zoning, yeah.
Ben, I have a quick question. I don't know if it's part of our upcoming conversation, but you had mentioned we had certain limitations based upon state statutes, and I think we're talking about average of 2 appraisals.
Yes.
I'm working in the recesses of my mind. Cobwebs. It seems like that we do have that restriction. However, if we went to court, we had to file condemnation. Goes before the judge. Judge rules in their favor. He can order 25% or more above what the town is offering. That's,
Ben and I have been working through 3 or 4 months now. And I've been working with Wes, and you're 100%. I have learned so much in the last 2 months that I didn't know about. I assumed we could borrow and been down this rabbit hole of, well, maybe we look at the whole. Greg worked with me on that as well. We're trying to get best borrowing mechanism. You're 100% right.
so how do you achieve that? How do you go about doing that? Is it a friendly lawsuit that's being filed?
No lawsuit. No lawsuit. Arm's length transaction, negotiating a transaction.
Okay.
I think that's where we are. Now, what I would propose to the commission for your consideration and consensus or motion is, the way I see this playing out is I'm going to ask for an approval to proceed with securing 2 appraisals at cost, and to consult with legal counsel on drafting up an offer and bringing all that back to you at the September hearing, at which time we can make a formal decision to make the offer, present the offer or not, based on the numbers, and hopefully go from there on presenting an offer to the landowner. If, I'm just kind of projecting down the line in a best-case scenario, that if it was accepted, we might be able to close by the end of this year and use our 2020 edit money of 100 plus the TIF money to pay cash for the property.
It's also possible to encumber some of the, budget money for 2021 to be used in 2022 if you close after the first of the year.
Right, and so that would be honestly the next property.
Yeah.
My thinking for the next property. Yeah. That I would also like to acquire, and that would be the Pop Logan building, and go through the same process again in 2022. When, more budget, more edit money and more TIF money has come in. And, but within 13 or 14 months, perhaps own both of those properties and pay cash for them. So that's what I'm going to pitch to the commission for your consideration on approving an expense for 2 appraisals, getting legal to write an offer to make sure we're meeting code on this, and then bringing it back to the Redevelopment Commission at the September hearing for formal approval to submit.
The approvals need to be given by council, town council?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but sometimes in a political environment such as this, I always like to make sure.
I'll leave that up to staff on whether they think that's a good idea.
My opinion would be that I don't believe that it would need to come to the council. I think that, as the RDC, from my understanding, has the legal right to acquire the property. I don't, the action is moving in the direction that the town wants to go. I don't see having to bring that into it, so.
I'd be happy to mention it on the 18th if you think that would be a good time to do it. Just kind of give the council a heads up of where we're going, just so they know.
Inform him.
Right.
Okay. I'll do that as part of my being here for the budget request, okay?
I think that would be good, and it's in the council.
Please.
And the community
We had talked before about leaving this property, the rental property, as a rental for a while and collecting income, rent income. Is that still, did we vote on that? Do we have to vote on, is that still our vision?
It would be up for discussion. I think it would be prime discussion next month. My immediate just thought is that we would hire a property manager to manage that property for us and collect the rents and pay the expenses and turn over to the RDC. The net would be my thought. And at some point in the future, that building obviously would be coming down.
I think we talked about hiring the property manager. Especially that came up when we were discussing possibly taking a loan, you know, and having those rents pay those loans. And if we were in a position to pay cash, again, knowing that all these things take time, you know, I could see that that would still be a viable solution instead of just taking it down.
But question along that line, paying cash versus making payments on it over time, not knowing what the next year or two, what other opportunities that may bring, and knowing that we have a limited income right now, and knowing the interest rates are very low, maybe something to consider to keep more of your cash on hand, to look at other opportunities that we may not see yet that are a year or two down the road, and not necessarily have all of your cash tied up in collateral on the properties. It may be something to think through a little bit more in the next month of which is the better option to allow this body to have maximum flexibility to make further purchases into the future on things maybe we can't see right now too.
Not a terrible idea, and I would just have to rely on Jenny to help us with what our options would be. Can you speak to that? Can you speak to that?
I didn't hear the end of what you're saying because I was making notes.
Well, I'm just in my mind wondering, is it better to make payments on it and not have all of our cash tied up in there in the next year to 18 months compared to putting all of our cash in and not having the flexibility to make a payment, make a down payment on another
Essentially
property
to get financing, to secure financing to pay,
Exactly.
financing in a certain percentage, whatever that is.
Right, which has been pretty low here as of late, so
Yeah.
it may present some other opportunities.
So the town Danville's financial advisor is here all day tomorrow working with me. I will absolutely present this. What we can do is a financial analysis, and they will make a recommendation based upon rates currently, the rates of our interest of what we're making, and the revenue that's anticipated the next 3 years. And they will forecast out and prepare a report to present to you guys. I've worked with them for 12 years. I believe very strongly in their knowledge, and I would feel most comfortable doing that if you guys are okay with that. They charge anywhere from $150 to $400 an hour, depending on which staff member we're working with, but I can get a quote for them because that would come out of redevelopment since it's the commission's property. So I'm happy to work tomorrow and have them prepare something like that in the next couple of weeks for us.
Jenny, Mark, it's my recollection that the commission can secure financing. I know, Huntington Bank came in at one point in pitching their services to us of, if you ever need to borrow money, consider us an option. So I think, and just based when we were first getting started and the attorney firms educating us on what we can and can't do and the booklets they gave us, financing is part of what we can do to make projects happen.
There's a lot of gray, though, because those are the things I've learned the last 3 months, is we can't borrow against, like, the Host Future Fund. I think you and I had that discussion.
Right.
And so I'll get all the details of what we can and can't do. I know we had even
More of
talked.
institutional financing,
Right,
Like the
right.
town would do to go bond their sewer project or what have you.
Exactly. Because you and I had talked about, I had met with Heath Allen about us doing a short 36-month, when we didn't know how much revenue we were going to be receiving, and we couldn't do that. So you're exactly right. It'll be about bonding and
And so then, Tracy, we just weigh the pain of doing that factor versus, what we're
Yeah.
trying to accomplish, because that's no easy feat. It can be done. It is done all the time. It's just, it's not a snap your finger and have it done type of thing.
Well, what the analysis would show is that, what's that bonding gonna cost?
Exactly.
What's gonna be the cost of that financing versus your more traditional financing, if we're limited to not being able to use more traditional financing?
And how long does it take to get accomplished? Yeah,
And
meaning if we need to close in 60 days, can we even pull something like that off?
And something else that's going to show, and Dr. Schaefer and I have had this same goal for a couple of years, we just haven't been able to bring it to the table with COVID and everything, but what he and I both are seeing happening is we're all in the same tax base. Gary, you and I worked with this a lot. So the library's bonding, we all are growing leaps and bounds, we all need money, but we're all in the same pot at the end of the day. And when the school bonds, the library bonds, we bond, we're all hitting circuit breakers, and it's affecting all of us when we do that. So Dr. Schaefer and I talked a couple years ago about maybe we should sit down at a table, all of us that are involved in this, and do our 5-year projections, and maybe the school can add on in 2023, and the town can have their projects in 2024, because not only do we look at what you guys are going to do, we have to look at what the police department's going to do. The fire department wants to build a fire station west. I mean, there's just so much that goes into this, and that's where the financial analysis and the experts, that are CPAs, because that's way above anything I know, come into play. So there's just so much. It's not like we're going and getting a car loan here, and I know you guys are all very intelligent, and
Understood.
you know that, but there's just so much that goes into it.
Understood. I absolutely agree. So let me go down the line here and just see if we can get a consensus. Is anyone philosophically opposed to, pursuing financing to keep some money in the bank? Just philosophically, Greg? Anyone?
We need to explore our options.
Good. Very good. That's how I feel about it too. So,
Email you guys and see what they're, it'll be the next couple of weeks, but
There are definitely some hurdles there. I think doing our due diligence, it's good just to see what is available. But yeah, if we can only bond, then that's probably going to limit us back to cash options, I would think. But we'll see.
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I do like the idea of having availability of money in the bank to pursue other projects. And it could be, if we're out of cash, I mean, you can always bond your future TIF money, that's their collateral, is the future TIF money. So we could go get, even if we're out of cash, we can go get bonding for that next project that we need to do.
Pay the bonds.
Right. Yep, and I think that TIF money is, that's fairly secure. Okay. Good discussion. So, can I have a motion? Can I have a motion about the appraisals and,
I'll make a motion that we order 2 appraisals for the northeast corner of the Dairy Queen lot.
Second?
we have a motion and a second to pursue 2 appraisals on the apartment building lots and to proceed and bring it back next month for the commission's consideration on an offer. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Question,
Motion carries.
staff pick the appraisers, or do we direct them?
Whoever y'all usually use is fine with me. Any objections from the commission? Approved. Thank you. And Lisa, we need to work with legal on the timing of this. Something tells me that the timing of the appraisals in relationship to offers and closings need to be all in a certain period of time, and so I just want to make sure, that all lines up, and perhaps we ask for those appraisals to be delivered, like the day before our next meeting, something like that, you know? Okay. So you and I and Lisa Lee should get on the horn together and kind of talk through that. All right. Any other comments on that general avenue before we move on? All right. Let's talk about ag abatement and what staff found out from discussions with the assessor's office.
So we met with them a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking the assessor what the difference was in properties that that we might annex that are currently being used for agricultural purposes but zoned for industrial, and the difference between doing that and an ag abatement. And she did not believe that there really was any difference. She said when it really changes is when the use of the property. So she didn't feel that, you know, if we would annex ag property, it's not going to change the tax.
Is that just because it's Center Township and Town of Danville?
Well, there is a difference in the tax rate, which is very, very little.
Correct.
I mean, it's
And that's
almost,
why
it's insignificant.
That's why it's insignificant. Say if it
Right.
was a different town, different township, different town, it could have a bigger impact.
It could, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would remain at the same, you know, or basically the same tax rate.
And that's what that was my takeaway from the Edmondson annexation, was just that. And I'm
Right.
glad to have confirmation of that. So essentially, is everybody following that? That the tax rate between Town of Danville and Center Township is not significant enough really to make a difference to even need to offer the ag abatement? Okay,
Thank you.
that's good news. I'll open the floor for any remaining thoughts, any reports.
Did you want to give an update on the comfort letter? I've included all of the information. I'm sure everyone had a chance to read it, but the cost and everything on getting the comfort letter for that lot.
Quick update, this commission approved funds for the testing, soil testing, and that we signed a contract and are underway with that. The testing's already been done, and it came in under budget, so very pleased.
Yeah.
We don't know the results yet, but it's heading in the right direction. Mark, you have anything for us? Jenny, anything further? Jerry?
I have a question for Jerry. So, putting together something like in Plainfield, you know, bringing together 13 different properties into one, none of the, from what I understand you saying, none of the existing property owners retained any ownership following the deal.
Some
Okay.
ask. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
so,
okay, all right, thank you.
but it could have been.
Sure. Just out of curiosity, did any of those property owners then turn around and either lease or rent property in that space?
A lot of them were businesses. Those were parks for a lot of.
Sure. Well, and Brewlink has found success in its other locations, so, yeah. Thank you, that's all I have.
Sir.
Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much, nicely done.